Can we just do that? Can we just have buffoons, public buffoons? What happened to public buffoons?
I know exactly what happened to them. Do you remember Maddox, the guy who was popular for being funny on the internet in the late 90s and early 2000s? Well, he's still around, and he's busy suing people for millions of dollars over hurt feelings right now. But this isn't gonna be another video about the downfall of Maddox, cause there's already a lot of videos on YouTube about that. And according to Social Blade, that's a story that's not going to be finished for at least another 4 years. So no, this isn't the overall story of the downfall of Maddox. This is another chapter in the tale of a once great man slowly becoming the thing that he used to fucking hate. So somewhere in between Maddox's peak and Maddox's plummet, he had a podcast with a guy known as Dick Masterson. It was called The Biggest Problem in the Universe, and it was a really good podcast, possibly my favorite one of all time. The concept was pretty simple. Dick and Maddox both bring in a bunch of problems, debate over which ones are the worst, and then the audience votes on it. One of my favorite episodes of The Biggest Problem in the Universe was episode 15, in which the problem Facebook satire tags was brought in. In case you don't remember, at a certain point Facebook was experimenting with tagging articles from satirical and fake news sites, such as The Onion and Hustlers.com as satire. I was strongly opposed to this, as I think one of the great joys in life is seeing your dumb friends get tricked and outraged over Onion articles and shit like that. When they don't give that warning ahead of time, and you can see which of your friends are getting tricked by really dumb, obviously fake shit, you get a good idea of whose opinions you should never fucking trust on anything. And this was an opinion that both me and Maddox shared.
It's a very clever and powerful rhetorical device that people use to point out a flaw in something. So these are dummies trying to buy insurance. They're trying to insure themselves so they don't look dumb. They want to cover their ignorance. They want to make sure that they never look dumb pointing out a satirical article as fact. They don't like it when that mirror is turned back on themselves.
Exactly.
But this is where it gets kinda saucy, because you know how I said Maddox is currently involved in lawsuits with people over hurt feelings? Well, if you look at his lawsuit, it seems like Maddox was perhaps a guy who needed satire tags. And I say that because in the most recent document released by Maddox and his lawyer in his court case against Dick Masterson, his former co-host, and Asterios Kokkinos, a frequent guest on the show, Maddox used a satirical Reddit comment as evidence of a conspiracy against him. This comment was posted by a guy named Maddox, who is performing a character who is a parody of Maddox. What makes it even more ironic is that this character is meant to demonstrate Maddox's newfound stupidity and lack of self-awareness. Let's take a look at this comment. Or rather, let's take a look at the comment inside of the court document. Statement from Maddox. On or about November 15th, 2017, subsequent to this lawsuit being filed, and defendant and being served, their co-conspirator and creation, defendant, made the following statement on the Dick Show fan forum Reddit page. Asterios and Dick both called me on a conference call, and note that right after this sentence they omitted a joke from the post in which he says, "I was shocked, because even though I had listened to the show, I had never talked to either of them." So right there, it's already setting this thing up as a joke because, there's no normal possible way that they could have ever found him. They said using an advanced algorithm provided by Dick's company and utilizing data from the place Asterios worked at, they had calculated what fan had the right body type and wit to create a parody of Maddox. Now, think for a second that this is a statement that's being submitted in a court case as proof of something that really happened. In what world exists a technology that can go through your entire fan base, including people who you've never been in contact with, dig through that fan base and calculate whose body is the right proportion and who is clever enough? Did Dick and Asterios work for the agency from fucking 24 where they have all this data? Did they fucking program RoboCop? Clearly, either Maddox or his fucking dog bite attorney think that CSI Miami is how the world actually fucking works. And furthermore, if you've ever seen Maddox and Mad Cucks, it's pretty clear that the right body type comment is a joke, because even at his fattest, Maddox was never that fucking fat. The first call took several hours, but during it we laid out what would become the plan for Mad Cucks and how to develop the character over the next several months. It was made clear in that phone call that people couldn't know they had worked on it too. It had to seem grassroots. As part of the deal, Dick provided me with 40 Patreon bots to fake a bigger Patreon than Maddox over the course of several months. Now this statement, if you're not familiar with the story, is a reference to Dick Masterson having one of the top accounts on all of Patreon. At some point, Maddox accused him of using Patreon bots to artificially inflate his numbers. And that's the end of the statement, which at that point you could think, well, maybe they're just using this as proof of, Masterson's fan base, Kokinos' fan base, kind of instigating some kind of harassment campaign, as has been said before. But no, they took it all the way. Defendants and Kokinos, therefore, created a character called Mad Cucks with defendant based on an appalling caricature of plaintant. Over the past year, defendant Mad Cucks regularly appears on her and Kokinos podcasts. So there you go, a man who once railed against the need for satire tags because, you know, people who get tricked by satire are dummies. He submitted satire, really obvious, not subtle satire, as evidence in a court case. A guy who hates people who are dumb enough to fall for satire is dumb enough to fall for satire. It's funny, there's actually a term that exists for when people have such a lack of self-awareness that they greatly overestimate their own abilities and intelligence. I'll let Maddox explain.
So this is the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. You know what that is, right?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so the Dunning-Kruger effect, these are a couple of researchers. It's a cognitive bias. I'm reading this directly from Wikipedia. It says cognitive bias manifesting in unskilled individuals suffering from illusory superiority, mistakenly rating their ability much higher than is accurate. This bias is attributed to the metacognitive inability of the unskilled to recognize their ineptitude. Yeah, so this is the Dunning-Kruger effect in action, where people think that they're really smart and they figured it all out because they saw this thing on The Onion or The Daily Current.